Welcome to September's class for making the most of your die cutting machines. This month's class features the Sizzix Big Shot and the Texture Fades and On the Edge dies from Tim Holtz. So the first thing I'm going to do is use the File folder tab. It's a On the Edge die from Tim Holtz. And these really make great edges and borders on your pages or for cards or anything. So there you can see that file folder I cut from the solid side of an American Crafts sheet of patterned paper. This is the new Dear Lizzie Enchanted line, I believe. I'm just gonna trim that up real quick. And I cut a strip of patterned paper to about, I think it's 5.5 inches wide to run it through, and I left it the length of 12 inches just because I want to be able to cut it down as I get to that point when I'm designing my layout. So I just left it that way. I was going to try to round that other corner, but then I decided I better not. I was going to ruin my tab. Anyhow, I left the paper long, and I will trim it down here after a bit. I'm going to take another solid sheet now, and there's two different file tabs on each of these On the Edge dies, and one is on the side and one is on the middle. So I just flipped the die around, I laid down the cutting mat, my die, my On the Edge die, the paper and another cutting mat, and I'm running it through again. And there you can see that the tab is in the middle on this one. So I'm going to move the Big Shot out of the way real quick. And then I'm going to go ahead and just trim down this file folder exactly the same as last time. I'm going to leave it long as well. That way I can customize it when I get to that point in putting together my layout. And I'm going to go ahead and round both of the corners using my corner chopper. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my layout and kind of see how it's going. I've had a lot of requests wanting to see exactly how I put together my layouts, and this is how I do it. I don't adhere anything until I'm sure that's where it's going to go. So right now I still have a lot of paper still full size or whatever, and I'd laid out my photos on top of it just to see kind of how it's looking. Okay, I'm going to take another coordinating sheet from this Dear Lizzie line, and I'm going to cut it to 4 inches by, I think, about 5.5 or so. Then I'm going to take my Big Shot, and I'm going to use the multi-purpose cutting platform. And you're going to want to open it, I think, so that it has one of the tabs down. And then I will take the paper that I just trimmed, and I'm placing it in this wood grain Texture Fades embossing folder from Tim Holtz. I just love the look of this. And it's a great way to add texture and dimension to your page without a lot of bulk. So I'll lay that on the cutting platform, then I'm going to layer on the rest of the embossing pads and run that through. And when I take my paper out, you can see it is embossed beautifully. Super simple and very easy. I am going to emboss another little piece of paper here. It's just a dark pink, which is also another back from a coordinating pattern paper. I just needed some solid colors. And I'm going to use this dotted background Sizzix embossing folder. And again, running it through exactly the same way. And you just follow the steps there on the platform, and you can see that great little Swiss dot look. Then I'm going to take the brackets on the edge die, and I want to use the big bracket. Again, there are two different designs on this on the edge die, and I'm choosing the larger of the two brackets. I'm just cutting that out of that Swiss dot paper. So there's one. And then I'm I'm going to need 2 of these edges, and I'm just going to cut them both out of the same sheet of paper. So I will flip my paper around and run it through again. This is just a nice way to embellish your die cut pieces, is to emboss them. Again, going to take my paper trimmer and just trim down those borders. Get rid of all that extra. And I can customize it further later if I need to, but I'm just planning on tucking them underneath that wood grain embossed strip of paper, so I think they should be okay. Clean all that up. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I did punch that circle from this sheet of pattern paper using the 2 3/4 circle punch from EK Success. And there are those brackets, and I'm just laying those out to see how I like that. And then I punched out a 3-inch circle to mount that on. I decided I didn't like that. So I just kind of temporarily adhered my one circle to that wood grain embossed piece of paper, and I'm taking a 3-inch circle punch and just making sure the border is all even, and I'm going to punch that out. This is a fun way to kind of add a frame to a punched or die cut design. So then I'll attach that that punched circle rather right inside there. I've added a couple of stickers. I'm going to trim off some extra. I did adhere a few things to this file folder because I'm liking the way it's looking. And I stamped the date on one of the file folders as well. And then I cut a couple of really thin strips from some scrap paper that coordinates with this line, just from other things I've cut out or whatever. And I'm just going to snip the ends of those to make them kind of fun, kind of add a diagonal there. I'm gonna take the Tim Holtz Tiny Attacher and just add it secures that thin strip to the file folder tab, but it also is a fun embellishment in itself. And you can see I've trimmed down those file folders now to fit my layout. And it's starting to come together. And you aren't limited to using one die cutting machine on a project or anything. You can use as many as you want. I happen to like this title from Silhouette America, and so I cut this out using my Silhouette, and I just cut it from that brown American Crafts paper. And I added some spray adhesive to the back, and then I'm just adhering it right on top of that embossed design. The embossing just adds a really nice finished look and interest to especially solid type papers. So there's my title, and I also die cut. This was on that same brackets on the edge die from Tim Holtz. This is the other bracket design. It's just a smaller version of the large one, and I cut it out of the coordinating brown paper, pattern paper as well. Just wanted to add just a little bit more layering and color. I've had a lot of questions on how I do my layering, and this is how I do it. Once I've kind of got my basic layout down, I kind of see where I think I need color or something to look at. There's just not really any rhyme or reason. I just kind of pick and choose as I go. I want to do a little bit of stamping. This is going to be my journaling spots for my layout, and this is from an Ali Edwards stamp set. And I'm stamping the main journaling block, and then with Stampin' Up! Soft Suede ink, and then I've picked a couple of close to my heart inks to coordinate. And I'm just using more stamps from the same stamp collection to kind of finish off my journaling spot and customize it a little bit. So that says the details, and that was stamped with I'll link the color in the PDF at 2Ps. And I decided, oh, pardon my head, I decided I better go ahead and stamp a couple of them because I have quite a bit to write, or journal rather. This little lines comes with a stamp set too, so I'm just going to quickly add that to both of these journaling sets, or journaling spots rather. And then there's a little date stamp and a border. Maybe I'm going to do the border first. I'm going to do this border and I'm going to stamp it with a little lighter peach color there at the top of my journaling spot. There you can see it a little bit better. There's all kinds of different elements that work together and you can customize them any way you want. As you can see here, you just kind of build it the way that works for you, and that says date. And I'm going to leave the other one pretty plain. Put those away real quick. The stamping just adds a nice little element to the page. I'm going to add a little stamping to the bottom of my file folder tab as well. And there you can see the journaling spots I printed on them, and I'm going to start adhering some of these things to my layout. I pretty much have everything that I need to put the layout together now. So I'm going to go ahead and get the file folders put in place. And you can see I've punched a few butterflies using some Martha Stewart punches as well. I like to just lay out a bunch of things that I think will work. And if it ends up working, great. If not, you know, I can put them away or use them for another project, or maybe a card or something like that. I also punched a couple of 1 1/4 inch circles and cut them in half and put them along that orange polka dot border. I'm going to put a couple of small rhinestone mini brads in there as well here in a little bit. And I try not to push down the pieces too much in place until I have everything exactly where I want it, so I don't have to pull too much up if I change my mind or things didn't line up correctly or whatever. This is the Tim Holtz craft pick, and it pokes wonderful little holes for adding brads or buttons or things like that. And then you can see it's retractable, so the blade goes right back up. You don't have to worry about a lid to you know, screw over it or anything like that, or maybe leaving it out and forgetting to put the lid on it. It's real easy to just pop it right out and put it right back. I decided to put the journaling above and below the photo. I just thought that worked better with the design. And you can see here I did put down that journaling block and it didn't quite line up quite the way I wanted it to, so I'm pulling it off kind of carefully and butt that right up next to my photo. And there it is. And I also added a little yellow bicycle journaling spot to that border or the file folders there over on the left side of the page with a Tim Holtz mini paper clip and some baker's twine, just a few things like that. I'm going to go ahead and add these butterflies, and that will finish off the layout. Thanks for watching another video brought to you by 2peasinabucket.com. See you next month.